In the timeless words of our Nigerian elders, the river that refuses to flow will eventually dry up. A proverb that reminds us how resistance to force can sometimes lead to tragic consequences. Yet standing firm in one's beliefs often defines the strength of a community. This ancient wisdom feels painfully relevant today as we confront a horrific tragedy in Nigeria's Kwara state, where dozens of local Muslims, perhaps as many as 170, were reportedly massacred for refusing to surrender to jihadist extremists demanding they adopt a strict and unfamiliar interpretation of their faith. This na confirmed street news. Na waiting we hear with the report, but be sure say na confirm. Abeg, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and drop a comment to help us grow and bring you undiluted news. The attack unfolded in the remote villages of Woro Nuku in Kwara State, a western region not typically associated with the epicenter of Nigeria's long-running jihadist insurgency. According to the state's governor, AbdulRahman AbdulRazaq, the assault targeted the communities after they rejected overtures from militants who had previously sent messages announcing their intention to preach a strange doctrine. When residents resisted and even mobilized local security to protect their way of life, the extremists struck back with ferocious violence. The raid began around 5 p.m. local time and lasted 3 to 4 hours, during which attackers opened fire indiscriminately, shot many victims at close range, burned some alive, set homes and shops ablaze, and abducted 38 people. The governor initially reported 75 local Muslims killed, while a state lawmaker noted that 78 bodies had already been buried, with fears the total could climb to around 170 as recovery efforts continue amid ongoing searches for more victims. Among the dead were 2 sons of the local traditional leader, whose family also suffered abductions. The brutality has left survivors fleeing and communities in shock. If this story of loss and defiance stirs you to stay informed about the security challenges facing our nation, please hit that like button right now. Share your thoughts in the comments about how we can better protect vulnerable areas and subscribe to the channel. Your support ensures we keep bringing these critical reports to light. To understand the gravity of this incident, we must place it within Nigeria's broader security landscape. For over 15 years, the country has battled a persistent Islamist insurgency, primarily led by Boko Haram and its splinter factions, including groups affiliated with the Islamic State West Africa province. Originating in the northeast, particularly Borno State, the conflict has claimed tens of thousands of lives, displaced millions, and spread to neighboring regions through targeted raids, abductions, and attacks on civilians, markets, and vigilante groups. While the core insurgency remains concentrated in the northeast and Lake Chad Basin, recent months have seen jihadist activity creeping into areas like Kwara, where militants, often operating on motorcycles, have carried out killings and disruptions. This particular attack is attributed to Boko Haram or a splinter faction, with reports suggesting it may have been a retaliatory strike to divert attention from recent counter-terrorism operations that have targeted terrorist and kidnapping gangs in the area. Nigeria's diverse landscape, home to over 250 ethnic groups with a Muslim majority north, Christian majority south, and mixed middle belt, has seen violence affect communities across religious lines, but this case stands out for its targeting of fellow Muslims who refuse to submit to the extremist demands. Key figures have responded with urgency and condemnation. Governor AbdulRazaq publicly blamed Boko Haram, emphasizing that the victims were killed because they absolutely refused the imposed doctrine, and highlighted how the community had rejected the militants' advance. A local lawmaker described the scale of destruction, including burned structures and abductions, while a resident recounted the prolonged terror of the assault. Amnesty International has called for a thorough investigation, pointing to the stunning absence of adequate security to protect lives in the area. In response, President Bola Tinubu swiftly deployed an army battalion to the affected region to restore order and pursue the perpetrators. The military has also intensified operations elsewhere, recently eliminating a senior Boko Haram commander and other militants in Borno State, amid ongoing cooperation with international partners like the United States, which has provided intelligence and equipment for counter-insurgency efforts. The implications of this massacre are far-reaching and deeply troubling. Socially, it deepens trauma in already vulnerable rural communities, eroding trust in institutions when protection seems inadequate and forcing families to flee their homes. The targeting of Muslims by jihadists for refusing to join their cause underscores the extremists' willingness to kill fellow believers who do not conform, further complicating religious dynamics in a nation where faith is central to identity. Politically and security-wise, it highlights the expanding footprint of these groups beyond their traditional strongholds, straining already overstretched security forces and potentially overwhelming local resources. Economically, repeated attacks disrupt farming, trade, and daily life in affected areas, exacerbating poverty and food insecurity in regions dependent on agriculture. The abductions add another layer of anguish as families wait in uncertainty for news of loved ones. Public reaction has been one of horror and outrage, with widespread condemnation across social media and communities. Many have expressed shock at the scale and brutality, particularly since the victims were Muslims targeted for resisting extremism rather than for religious difference. Human rights groups and observers have criticized the apparent gaps in security deployment, while others point to the broader pattern of jihadist violence that has claimed lives in multiple states recently, including separate attacks killing dozens in Katsina and Borno around the same time. There's also acknowledgement of government efforts to respond, though calls persist for more proactive measures to prevent such incursions. Looking ahead, the deployment of troops to Kwara offers hope for immediate stabilization and pursuit of the attackers, but sustaining security in remote villages will require long-term strategies. Counter-terrorism operations continue to yield results, as seen in recent eliminations of militants, yet the spread of these groups suggests the need for enhanced intelligence, community vigilance, and perhaps greater investment in early warning systems. If the abductions lead to demands or further attacks, it could escalate tensions, but successful rescues or dismantlement of cells might deter future incursions. Broader regional cooperation, including with international partners, remains crucial in dismantling networks that operate across borders. Ultimately, this tragedy serves as a stark reminder that the fight against extremism demands not just military force, but also addressing root causes like poverty, governance gaps, and ideological recruitment to prevent communities from being caught in the crossfire. As we reflect on this heartbreaking event and the resilience of those who stood against coercion, I invite you to join the conversation in the comments. How can Nigeria strengthen protections for rural areas against such threats? If this report has moved you or opened your eyes to the ongoing challenges, like the video, subscribe for more in-depth coverage of the issues affecting our nation, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your engagement helps us continue shining a light on stories that demand attention.